Hello, this is Chick Chang back with another summary, this time about Halo Cole Protocol. The book takes place after Contact Harvest, but before the actual Fall of Reach in the book Fall of Reach. If you haven't read Harvest or seen my summary of it, it will be in the description below. Let's get started. We meet Ignacio Delgado, who is on the rubble as we will come to know it, which is a settlement in the 23 Libre system entirely composed of hundreds of hollowed out asteroids, all connected with docking tubes. But Delgado is with his buddy, Melko, who are both attacked by Kig Yar, who want the chip that they have that's composed of the nav data, which is for all ship navigations and all colony locations and, the typical thing the Covenant wants. Melko is injured after killing one of the Kig Yar and getting shot by, another group of them. Delgado tells him to get to the airlock to escape with the data, and he will protect his exit. Melko decides, what the hell. So he gets to the airlock, boards the Distancia, which is Delgado's ship, to escape. Delgado shoots the Kig Yar, getting hit, but then is saved by a Spartan who drops down, kills all three of the remaining Kig Yar with ease. This Spartan turns out to be Adriana, which is part of Grey Team. Asks where his friend's going, but he fell to the ground due to his injuries. So Adriana uses some biofoam, patches him up. He realizes that she is also after the nav data and doesn't want to give it to her since he doesn't obviously trust the UNSC either. She hands him a beacon and tells him if he changes his mind, he can give it to her. Which at this point, honestly, I think he should do it, but, that'd be too easy, so. She then admires the custom pistol he has, which is made by his uncle, and he calls it Senor Seis, which is a pretty awesome pistol. Before she leaves, they introduce themselves officially, and Delgado thanks her. She then tells him that, they were never there, and she does this to, see if he can be trusted. The second perspective of this story jumps to Lieutenant Keyes, who happens to be waking up from cryo on the Armageddon's edge. He talks with some of his crew while he gets dressed and reminisces about Miranda, his daughter. After arriving at the docking bay, we meet Jeffries, who is about to take him planetside. Keyes notices Jeffries' uniform is out of line and lectures him about being able to be safe on his plane when, he can't even dress properly. Jeffries lets him know, there's no correlation between my uniform and my flying capabilities, to which Keyes does end up seeing firsthand. Jeffries flies with ease, not even paying attention half the time, and which, slightly impresses Keyes, but he's not going to tell him that. After landing, Keyes asks where they're going to be going, but Jeffries doesn't know and assumes that Keyes will tell him when he gets back. Keyes then rides in a Warthog to the actual meeting spot where he has no idea why he's going there and who he's talking with. Once at the location, he gets out and hears Admiral Mawakizi yell for him. They have a typical praise for each other, then Mawakizi tells Keyes he pulled many strings to get him out there. Then they arrive at the meeting where Keyes is introduced to Commander Dmitry Zhang. The meeting actually starts and everyone gets information about the new Cole Protocol that has to be followed, which states that any and all human vessels need to follow these directives if Covenant are detected. They go as follow. Number 1, activated selective purge of all databases on the ship based on planetary data networks. Number 2, initiate triple screen check to ensure all data has been erased and all backups neutralized. Number 3, execute viral data scavengers. Number 4, if retreating from Covenant forces, all ships must enter slipstream space with randomized vectors, not directed toward Earth, the inner colonies, or any other human-populated center. Number 5, in case of imminent capture by Covenant forces, all UNSC ships must self-destruct. And not following any of these can lead to life in prison or execution, so might as well just follow the Cole Protocol. Keyes realized that since Admiral Cole's victory at Harvest when the UNSC went back to retake it, there hadn't been a victory for the UNSC since. Mawakizi then tells Keyes that he tried to keep him in line of duty after his injury but was sorry about the disqualification, and wants him on his crew now for his brilliant tactical mind. If you didn't know, Lieutenant Keyes was injured during a training exercise where his leading officer decided to try and test a new theory about slip space to try and make it more accurate. He got pretty much everybody killed. Keyes almost killed, but was badly injured by plasma burns. And, well, Keyes didn't testify against him, so that's kind of why everybody was sort of upset with him. I don't know why he didn't necessarily do it, but, he can keep a secret, which will turn out to be one hell of a quality that everybody likes in him. However, the offer that Mawakizi is giving Keyes, it's up to him, apparently. A stealth light frigate with long-range capabilities and can deliver a large complement of Marines is pretty much on the table for him to be a part of. The ship's name is Midsummer Night. Keyes admits it's difficult to take the opportunity because of Miranda, but he really wants to get back on a ship and thinks that being out in space, combating the Covenant, is the best way to protect his daughter. So, with that kind of logic, he accepts. He then meets an Oni spook named Watanabe, who is given the stealth ship over and wants to do a mission first, and that was kind of the stipulation for them getting the ship for their mission. Before leaving, Keyes asks if he can choose a pilot to join the crew, and Mawakizi sees no issue with it. So when he asks who, Keyes tells him he wants Jeffries, and, well, it's a done deal. So after all Jeffries showing off his skills, hey, he gets promoted. When Keyes gets back to Jeffries, they head up to the Midsummer Night. Keyes asks him if he knows anything about Dmitry Zhang. Jeffries tells him about an incident where, after being told to retreat during a Covenant battle, Zheng commanded his ship to crash into another Covenant ship and disabled it so another ship could destroy it. So Zheng was the only survivor, and well, a lot of people were not happy about that. So they think that he did it out of losing his family to the Covenant, which later find out not quite the case. Keyes tells him that's enough because, doesn't want to have a clouded judgment and keep heading towards the ship. However, before that, Keyes tells Jeffries to follow the flight path at all times and make sure his uniform is on correctly and so neatly as it should be, berating him a bit, but gets his point across, which Jeffries understands clearly. So we're back with Delgado. After some unfortunate events, we find Delgado at Melko's funeral. He was killed after leaving the airlock, but the nav data was still in safekeeping. Melko's family didn't want him there since they blamed him for his death. Maria Escoval, who was a childhood friend of Delgado, tells him just as much that he shouldn't be there because the family doesn't want him there, so it's kind of respect their wishes. Diego, who is Maria's brother and a council member, wanted to talk to Delgado and meets him at the funeral to talk about the nav data. Delgado tells him someone on the council is leaking information because anywhere they take it, it's found, and the only people that know about it are him, was Melko, and the council. So if he's not leaking it, somebody on the council is, or somebody's really good at finding it. Diego tells him that it's quite an accusation, but gives him a name of somebody that could possibly be the one that's leaking it. Peter Bonifacio. Diego also mentions the Kestrel, a ship that is coming in, and will have nav data on it. With information about it, he could figure out if it's indeed Bonifacio or not. The Midsummer Night tracks down Finnegan's Wake, which is a civilian cargo hauler. They were trying to leave the system without a military escort, so it was flagged due to the Cole Protocol. Keyes goes over to the ship via Pelican with Marines and enter the ship, where they are going on about what they have. The captain of the Finnegan's Wake is upset about the boarding and calls it hindrance on their rights and blah blah blah. Keyes tells him that they had the chance to make arrangements with the UNSC, and they didn't, so it's their problem. Keyes signals that the ODSTs can do their thing and search the ship. Canfield, who is, the leader of the ODSTs, starts giving orders but is cut off by an explosion on the deck, which threw Keyes across the deck, knocked him unconscious. 4 more explosions happen on deck, and one of the ODSTs gets Keyes up and moving and lets him know that his bell was rung, and he's all good, no worries. However, there was a bomb that went off, so need to get some shit going. When he asks about Canfield, the ODST tells him he's dead, and Faison is in charge. Keyes gets a helmet and radios Faison, asking him if he's got any intel on what's happening or if he's searching. Faison tells him he is, with an annoyed attitude, and tells him he knows what he's doing, so to kind of leave him alone. When Keyes tries to radio Jeffries, he's told that Jeffries is down and is filled with biofoam and badly needs medical attention. So then Keyes tries to radio the ship, but is unable to get a signal through. He then radios Faison again, asking if he radioed the Midsummer Night to come in. Faison says no. So Keyes pulls rank, tells him to stop sweeping and see who did. Keyes checks everyone in the bay, and nobody called the ship. Faison tells him nobody did either. So with a more curious tone, asks him what he's thinking. Keyes tells him to regroup so they can figure out what to do next. Once off the radio, he tells everyone to move containers near the wall of the ship, get all explosions near the wall as well, and to get the dead in one container, all the injured in another. Keyes then tells one of the ODSTs to give him his armor so he can be the first to go out. When Faison shows up, Keyes tells him his plan, to blow a hole in the wall, go out, and get as far away from the ship as possible since it's ready to blow. So, the reason why this is all happening is basically this ship had called the Midsummer Night to come in. So they basically tried to kill everybody with their bombs, didn't necessarily work, so anybody else that's left on the ship is like, hey, let's try to call them in, and then we'll self-destruct and kill everybody here. So Keyes sort of snuffs this out, and he's trying to get everybody off. So they do everything that Keyes wants, and then Keyes goes first to draw fire. And when he's far enough, he calls the Midsummer Night, telling them not to get any closer to the ship. Keyes watches the ship that they just came from explode while containers are drifting away and Marines are directing it with gunfire. However, because of the explosion, he can't really see anything, and he's pretty sure that everybody died. I mean, the explosion was huge and probably engulfed everybody. At least that's what he thinks. All right, back with Delgado. So Delgado knew that he needed to go to the outer habitats because anyone that knows anything about the Kestrel is going to be in the sketchy areas. They're not going to be within their inner sights. He walks into Eddie's in the rock and asks Eddie about getting a crew together to do a job. Wanting people with experience and a ship with a slip space drive, Eddie tells him that nobody's doing any smuggling anymore. And with the Covenant around the UNSC purging data, there's nothing they can do. Delgado asks if any ships are coming in, and Eddie brings up the Kestrel. When Delgado tries to make it seem like he doesn't really care about it, Eddie tells him he's not the only one asking about it, pointing out Adriana, who is, chilling at the bar, out of her suit, still bigger than anybody there, but chilling at the bar. Delgado walks up to her, and they talk some. Some other guys from the mines confront Adriana, telling her to piss off any more rude way than that. Delgado tries to cool down the situation, but they want none of it, because causing Adriana to want to fight them off, which she does pretty easily. When another man pulls a gun, Delgado pulls his, everyone freezes, but not because of him. Another Spartan, who you find out is Jai, broke through a wall, holding everyone in the bar at gunpoint, extracting Adriana and Delgado. Delgado is then knocked out before being taken to the Spartan ship. When he wakes up, he's aboard the Petya, which obviously it's a ship the Spartans named, where he meets Jai and Mike face to face, and they talk about it. And they talk about why they are there and what they need, which obviously is the nav data. Delgado still doesn't trust them, but admits he can't trust the Kigyar either. And he's having issues with people in the rubble, so he can't really trust anybody. Joyful. We learn that the most of the rubble isn't actually insurrectionists, most are neutral or even Earth sympathizers. But when the Madrigal, the home planet, and the system was glassed by the Covenant, it wasn't the UNSC that saved the people. It was the insurrectionists. Delgado tells him that they won't give up the nav data because he has a job to go along with, and he distrusts the UNSC anyway. He tries to tell them that the Kigyar are helping, but Jai bring up that they are hunting him down for the data. So can't be really helping that much. And that when they get the nav data, they will destroy the rubble the same as they always do with the human worlds. Delgado doesn't say anything for a second, but then he tells them it's their problem, not the UNSC's. This part kind of bothers me because, well, the nav data, it has Earth's location. So if they're stupid with it and they get killed, yeah, they're a problem. But they also gave away locations for all the other planets. So it's not just their problem. But hey, that's the logic there. After Delgado is gone, we see that there's a bit of friction between the three members of Grey Team, but they still function fine for the most part. We flash back to see when they met for the first time. Jai was wanting to leave the Spartan program, and Adriana accompanied him. Day after day, they would try to escape, getting farther and farther each time before getting caught, and punished, obviously, for leaving. Eventually, Dr. Halsey calls Jai in and asks him what he wants. Tells him he wants to leave. Well, he has two choices. He can either leave again that night, they will shoot him with a dart that'll possibly erase his memory, quote unquote, and drop him back in the city where nobody knows who he is, which is pretty much how it was to begin with. Or he can stay, join a new family of all the other kids and mentors, and, make them humanity's best hope for survival. That night, Jai and Adriana leave again. They get to the fence, and Jai asks what they said to her, but she can't tell him. Jai then asks her if she wants to leave, and she says no, because she likes it there. Both of them go back and decide to stick together. The next morning, Mendez has Mike join their team. They asked what he did, and apparently he stole a Pelican, crashed it when they caught him, and, well, that's his story pretty much. Back on the Petya, Mike and Jai talk about the situation in the rubble, and their entire ship shuts down. All three of them gut the ship, remove any possible compromised gear, and repower the ship. When up and going, the rubble AI shows up, and has an offer for the Spartans. She tells them that she can get them the nav data they want. In return, they have to stay and help the rubble. So she also admits that she's on the brink of rampancy, but she's been doing her job just fine. And well, they don't really have any choice but to trust her. The third point of view in this story comes from Sang Helios, where a recently appointed Kaidan is being attacked by assassins in his home. However, he has no trouble dispatching all of them without even getting touched. The Kaidan is none other than Thel Vidan. Now, if you don't recognize the name, this is the Arbiter from the Halo games that you play as in Halo 2 and 3. But before either of those games story-wise, Thel knows that this was done by one of the elders. He calls for a meeting with all the elders where he will stand naked in front of all of them, showing that he wasn't even touched by the assassins. He then states that one of them is still alive and spilled everything, which was a lie since he killed all of them. But he wanted to try and draw out the traitor. One of the elders gives away his unease and Thel confronts him. Koida, the elder, tells Thel that he wanted to make sure he was still fit to be Kaidan. Since he had spent his time fighting humans, he may have grown soft. That doesn't age well. Thel insults his logic and states that if he wanted to do that, he should have challenged him himself. Thel then tells him that his bloodline will be removed from the lineage due to his cowardice, and it's his fault, so that sucks. Koida tries to attack Thel and is dropped by Thel with very little effort, but because Koida showed a little bit of courage in his final moments, his bloodline won't be executed, but still going to be removed from the lineage and have to leave. Thel then tells the elders that he was promoted by the prophets and will be leading a ship to attack the new human homeworld, Charybdis 9. On Midsummer Night, back with Keys, he is recovering just fine from the injuries after being picked up after the insurrectionist freighter exploded. He realized that more Helljumpers had survived than he could have really ever expected, and they only lost about 20 of them. Still a lot, but nowhere near as badly as he thought it would be. When he gets to the bridge, he is thanked and admired for getting them out with very minor losses, since it's, obviously because of him that not more died. Keys asks about the captured Innie, and Watanabe tells him that he's been talking to him, but hasn't really gotten much information out of him yet. One of the crew members curtly remarks that he would have hated to be the guy, and, well, Watanabe snaps his head in his direction and lectures him, stating that he didn't bring a torture chamber, and that torture can get you bad information, since some people, when you put them in those circumstances, will say anything thinking that it could be true. Then he shows some scars on his body for being tortured before being saved by the UNSC. So, yeah, shouldn't have brought that up. Eventually, it's all calmed down, and they start having a conversation about the insurrectionists themselves, which eventually gets to the topic of their next mission, to go planet-side to meet some Oni personnel about Covenant weapons modified for human use. That could fall into any hands. The mission takes place on Charybdis 9, location known by the Covenant. Keys is just strolling down the hallway on the ship when he gets a call from sickbay about Jeffries. So while he's on his way there, he's confronted by Phazon and is jumped by a bunch of other ODSTs. They pull him into a room, strap him down, and give him a tattoo. And Well, before actually getting the tattoo, he's pretty sure that they're about to beat his ass. However, the tattoo will give him good rep with any and all hell jumpers that he meets. Faison admires Keyes for having the balls to pull rank and save their lives. Anyone else might have been too scared to, and would have gotten them killed. After leaving the group and, being pushed around and jived and having a little bit of fun, Watanabe meets him and tells him to come to Charybdis 9 with him since he doesn't trust anybody else on the ship. Goes with, being an Oni. Keyes agrees and gets ready to go. Jeffries flies them both down, and they meet with an Oni operator on the ground named Corinthia Hansen. She fills them in and shows them the weapons that they are trying to get from the Innies. They have to start early due to rioting going on across the city. Posing as a buyer trying to bust the Innies, Hansen meets with Jason Kincaid, who is a mid-level guy in the insurrectionist ladder. After talking for a bit, they let Hansen know that civilians are moving closer, and they need to either bug out and reset, or they need to take them now. She chooses to take them now, which they do. So when they all start leaving, in a bit of a convoy, the front trailer is struck by an RPG and the whole unit destroyed. Then their trailer is hit, blowing out a sidewall, and another man catches fire. Keyes tries to put him out, but by the time he does, man's already dead. So the three of them get up and leave and head up to the rooftop nearby. The three of them being Keyes, Watanabe, and Hansen. They get up to the rooftop and hold out until Jeffries gets there. Jeffries flies in and dodges one rocket. However, before being able to dodge the next one coming in, he's hit. And unfortunately, a second one hits and causes the Pelican to crash to the ground. Keyes is struck hard by this loss because he feels like he's the one that got him killed. He transferred him, and, if he didn't do that, he wouldn't be dead right now, but it's not his fault. And Watanabe tells him that there's nothing he could have done for Jefferson. Ooh, which stunned Keyes again for a second time since his name was Jeffries. Watanabe was a man of detail, but he couldn't remember the man's name? Well, that's Oni for you. He doesn't care about him. Keyes then calls in the Midsummer Night, asking for assistance, and Curly tells him that the ODSTs are on their way. Faison apparently had told them that they were leaving when they heard about the riots, so they only really have to hold out for another 20 minutes. Odds are, though, that won't happen. With just three of them, they don't have enough ammo, and hey, turns out they're all down for the challenge. On the other hand, somebody not looking for a challenge, Delgado, who, right after leaving the Petya, is confronted by 5 burly men of Bonifacio's. They bring him to a room across the hangar where they meet with Bonifacio himself. He knows that he's been asking about him, and he's wanted to ask him some questions of his own. He then accuses Delgado of selling the information on where the data has been, even though he was attacked and his best friend was killed. He even got the council to agree to hold him because of such a sensitive matter, and that the nav data is to be handed to him for safekeeping. We clearly learn at this point that Bonifacio's probably the biggest problem, human-wise anyway. After asking where the data is, Delgado tells him it's up his ass, jokingly obviously. Bonifacio wasn't a fan of this and punches him in the stomach near the plasma burn and tells him he's under arrest for suspicion of leaking the location. He eventually tells him to basically get comfortable since he's staying for a while, since he does have a backup plan of the Kestrel. Back planet side with Keyes, they're halfway through their 20-minute wait, so been about 10 minutes. They're holding strong on the roof, however, Hansen realizes that they're not really trying to push up the stairs, only firing warning shots, back and forth, kind of being at a stalemate, just wasting time. So she tells Keyes and Watanabe to, scan the outer rim of the building, make sure nothing sketchy is kind of happening. So they fan out and search. Keyes gets to the end of the building and stops, notices Watanabe stopped as well and had his gun out. And then 3 men leap over the edge, followed by Kincaid. Watanabe gunned down the first 2, but Kincaid used the third as a shield, pushed him at Watanabe, and then lights them both up. So sacrifices his homies, and he does shoot Watanabe. Keyes rushes over to try and help, but he can't shoot, risking hitting Watanabe. However, after seeing him drop, Keyes lifts his gun and shoots Kincaid in the chest, stomach, and grazed a 3rd shot before running out of ammo. He slams into him, grabbing the alien rifle, shoots his feet, and eventually kills him with a headshot, which puts Keyes in a bit of a shock since it's the first man he's ever shot and killed. He shot at people, but he's never actually killed anybody. He rushes to Watanabe to keep him alive and comfort him, but to no avail. Keyes takes Kincaid's headless corpse and throws it over the edge and dares anyone else to try and attack them. Warns them that ODSTs are coming and that they'll kill whoever's still chilling, so yeah. Just then, Hansen points out the cavalry had arrived. 20 pods fly in, spread throughout to avoid being shot out of the sky, and land on the rooftops. Faison gets out of one, rushes to Keyes, seeing that Watanabe is dead. Admits he didn't like the spook, but still. Has a couple other ODSTs wrap him up and ready to ship out, then orders his snipers and spotters to set up and kill all the Innies with rockets around so they can actually fly out. They use 1 Pelican to bait him out, and then one after another, they spot and kill every single one, with pretty relative ease. When Faison mentions a victory smoke, Keyes tells him that it's not really a victory, with 2 of their own dead and the Covenant weapons are amongst the civilians and the Innies on the planet. Faison tries to tell him, any day you come back alive is a victory, but Keyes wants none of it. Hansen tells him that it wasn't a total loss, since back at their meeting before it all went south, Kincaid mentioned the Kestrel, which is why he was so hellbent on trying to kill them, since he kind of let that, slip. So their new mission is to track down the Kestrel and see where it goes. Just then, Covenant enter in the system, and they're coming towards the planet. Keyes asks to see if there's anybody nearby to come and help defend them, but nobody's really close. Keyes tries to say that with stealth capabilities they can, try to do hit and run tactics, hold off the Covenant, but Hansen tells him it's a waste of resources, and a waste the UNSC cannot afford. She tells him that he needs to follow the Kestrel, try to figure out what's going on, and see if there are any humans working for the Covenant. I mean, she also throws out that she outranks him, so it's more of an order, not really a suggestion. The Covenant attacking the planet are accompanied by Thel and his hand-picked team that are attacking a UNSC destroyer called Do You Feel Lucky, which, kind of ironic, to try and get to the nav data on the ship before it's destroyed. Not meeting much resistance at first, Jorah is frustrated, wanting to spill blood. Thel, however, tells him that even though it's cowardly to flee, they do know how to get an advantage, so be careful. When they get to the command center, they find it full of bullet holes, which further frustrates the group because they can't complete the mission now because it's destroyed. Just then, humans ambush them, and Thel charges one of them to take him out. Jorah charges down the middle with a sword drawn and is able to cut down one of the others, but not before being lit up himself. He clutches his armor but continues to fight. They finish off the rest of the humans on board, and Thel realizes there's nothing left for them there and they have to leave. While leaving, Jorah starts questioning the Prophet's orders because they were first to attack and kill all humans and destroy everything with no questions, but now they're trying to board and extract information. Thel just says that's how things go, but Jorah asks if he's a bit curious as well, and Jar says it's probably because humans are everywhere, so trying to find locations would be faster than just searching slowly and finding the homeworlds. Thel then gets a call from the Prophet of Regret with a new mission. Nobody knows what it is yet, but they're excited to have another attempt at honor. Speaking of honor, Jorah was about to lose his because of his injuries. Apparently, being healed is a great amount of shame to Sangheili. But anyways, Thel meets with the Prophet of Regret, who shows him the human converted Covenant weapon. Thel is shocked by this heresy, dropping the weapon on the table and asks who's responsible. Regret tells him that he doesn't know, but he's sure it's coming from a place called 23 Librae, part of the Charybdis system, and that Kig-Yar were among humans. Thel knows the system since it's where they glassed the latest planet, Madrigal. Thel was told to take his own ship, but he will get additional support from Jiralhanae. Thel isn't a fan of the Jiralhanae, but he will not question a prophet. Regret leads him away and asks if he knows why they are at war with the humans. Thel thinks it's because humans destroyed artifacts and committed other heresies, to which Regret agrees, but further repeats orders and sends him on his way. Also, the only reason that Regret even knows about the rubble is because an Ungoi deacon got the message to him before he was killed by the Kig-Yar. Back on Midsummer Night, while preparing to leave the system and follow the Kestrel, Zhang wants everyone to watch the Covenant attack Madrigal. For the first time, Zhang addressed the whole crew, asking those that joined the UNSC to fight, for adventure, or some because they had nothing better to do. So basically he's trying to just, we may not all be here for the same reason, but we're all going to be wiped out for no reason, in a sense. So they have to fight. Thel and his crew, followed by the Jiralhanae support, arrive in system, and begin scanning the planet Madrigal, unable to find anything because the planet has already been glassed. After some conversing with the crew, Jorah mentioned the asteroids, since Kig-Yar, before joining the Covenant, would hide among asteroids on hidden bases. Not wanting to waste any more time, they head straight into the belt. Eventually getting within the asteroids, they get multiple readings. One of the bridge officers panics, calling multiple human warships attacking, causing a small panic on the bridge. After realizing it was just the asteroids, Thel had the panicked officer taken from the bridge and his rations revoked as punishment. Saul shows him the situation, which shows that all asteroids are being connected. They ponder how this went so long without being noticed, but they see a Kig-Yar ship, which possibly answers the question. Then they were under attack. Not knowing what it was at first, they realized that the Jiralhanae had attacked them, so he was betrayed by people he doesn't like. Joyful. Thel tried to get evasive maneuvers enacted and firing solutions. When they were unable to fight efficiently, Thel wants slipspace out. However, slipspace capabilities were taken out by the damage. Boarding craft was then sent to attack Thel's ship. When boarding, a couple explosions occurred in the cockpit, which hurled Thel through the air, and he was knocked unconscious when hitting the bulkhead. Back aboard the Midsummer Night, Keyes is navigating their way, analyzing the patterns of slipspace jumps that the Kestrel is taking. Still uneasy about leaving Charybdis 9 to fend for itself and most likely fall, he knew that this mission could mean everything for the human race. Keyes sees a pattern and tells Zhang that they'll probably end up at Madrigal. Zhang isn't really buying it though, since Madrigal's already glassed. Why would they go there? But after a few more jumps, they are in the system with Madrigal. However, they are flying into the asteroid belt that surrounds the gas giant Hestoid. Noticing that once again all the asteroids are hollowed out and connected to each other as some sort of metropolis, they also notice Kig-Yar vessels docked. And immediately, Zhang has them initiate the Cole Protocol. And this is where I'll leave off with part 1. All the stories are coming together in the same place. The rubble is where the rest of the story will take place up until the end. Hopefully you enjoyed the summary so far. Part 2 will be in the description. Subscribe to know when more content is released. This is Chick Chang. See you next time.